So let's take a deep breath together as we just move deeper into our service here today. We've been talking all month about finding God in everything as we continue with our theme for the entire year, which is life is for living, just say yes. Life is for living, just say yes. And we've been just saying yes to God in so many ways and saying yes to life in so many ways throughout our lives and throughout this time, knowing that life is a divine idea in the mind of God. And the only way we can experience that is through our livingness. And we do it through our livingness by our yes and our yes and our yes that we say over and over and over again. And when we commit ourselves to finding God in everything, then we're saying yes on a much bigger level, a much deeper level. To find God in everything, we have to learn to look within, because that's where God is, within. And we've been looking at ways that we can release or uncover that within us that allows us to see God in everything. We've talked about seeing God and finding God through our wisdom, and finding God through our compassion, and finding God through our authenticity, and finding God on the path of transition, which is what we are experiencing right now, the path of transition. And so this week, we're looking at finding God through the eyes of humor. Through the eyes of humor. Through the eyes of humor. And sometimes that's not as easy as others, but it's extremely necessary for us to find God in humor and find humor in everything, for God is in everything. And what that means is that with humor, we're looking at a state of mind, at a mood. And that state of mind, that humor, or that humorous state of mind opens us up. It allows us to open up. It allows us to lighten up. And that's what we need to do right now. That's not to say that this is not a serious time, because it really is. This is a very serious time. It's very serious things that we are experiencing right now. And we have to walk through it one step at a time, and we can't be so caught up in the seriousness of it that we lose ourselves, that we lose our connection to the one, that we lose our sense of who we are, and we lose our sense of what our source is and where our source is. Because yes, we're going through a crisis, but you know, there's a saying that the only crisis is fear. Because when we are so caught up in fear, we get caught up in believing in the reality of the crisis. And so the only thing that's real is God. And so when we begin to really, really look for God in everything, look for finding God in everything, then we can realize, okay, yes, we are experiencing a crisis right now. Yes, this is what we're calling a crisis right now. And there are other crises that have come, and this one will pass just like the other ones did. And then there will be other ones that will come, and we just stay focused on what we know to be true, that God is in the midst of the crisis. God is in the midst of everything. God is in the midst of all that we do. And so as we go through this time, I invite you to, yes, be where you are. Yes, acknowledge what you're experiencing. Yes, acknowledge what you're feeling. And while you're doing that, just recognize it's not necessary to go into spiritual bypass. Acknowledge where you are. There's a lot of anger that people are experiencing. A lot of anger about the loss that we all feel. Just think, 2 weeks ago seems like, when you think back on it, it seems like another whole era. And it was another era. Just 2 weeks ago, life was so different than it is now. And the fact that we are where we are now and experiencing what we are experiencing now makes it seem like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago, that was so long ago. It was so long ago that my daughter and I could ride in the same car. And now we can't. We wave at each other when if she's driving ahead of me and she passes me and she waves, and I wave back at her. That's how we greet each other now. And I'm sure that all of you are experiencing different kinds of changes and different kinds of losses and different kinds of things that make us angry and different kinds of things that makes us afraid. There's a lot of fear around. We're experiencing a lot of fear. But you know, when we scratch fear, underneath it is anger. And we get down to that anger, and we start looking at the anger that we can't do the things we want to do. We can't go the places we want to go. We can't live our lives the way we want to live them. And we are not in control of anything, we think, except ourselves, our own thinking, but we aren't in control of our environment, of our circumstances, or any of those things. And so when we start to get into that whole anger thing, when you scratch anger, you will find underneath that is grief. Underneath that is grief. Underneath that is grief. And there's a lot of grieving that's happening. Because all the things that we're looking at, all the things that we are experiencing, all the loss, all the no, we can't, all the restrictions, all those things make us feel restricted, make us feel limited, make us feel a sense of loss. And that creates grief for us. And I think it's important for us to recognize that we are experiencing grief. Yes, I am feeling sad. Yes, I am missing my friends. Yes, I am missing connecting with my community. Yes, I am missing so many things. So many things. And that's aside from the sense of loss when it comes to health and wholeness that we think we've lost, but particularly our health that comes up. And so all these things that as we go along, yes, we are acknowledging where we are. Yes, we are acknowledging the fear. Yes, we acknowledging the anger. Yes, we acknowledging the grief. We take a deep breath, and we know that in the midst of that, we can find humor. In the midst of that, we can lighten up. Because what humor does for us, it allows us to lighten up. It allows us to look at things with a different perspective. It allows us to sense into things differently. It allows us to see the absurdity of some things, even though they're necessary things to be doing. So I'm inviting you to find something to laugh at, find something to smile about, find something humorous in the little things that you do. Even when you're spending time by yourself, find something that you can just crack up about, something that you can just laugh about. Because what it does is it releases that tension, it releases that fear, it releases the endorphins, and it helps us physically to be able to laugh, because it allows our minds to clear, it allows our hearts to open, it allows us not to take things so seriously when we can laugh at things and laugh at the way we're doing things now. I was looking at as you know, my favorite Sunday morning show as I'm preparing to come here on Sunday morning, CBS Sunday Morning, and one of the humorists on there was talking about what his life is like now after spending 2 weeks in quarantine with his wife and 5 children in their New York apartment. That in itself would make you laugh without him saying another word. We assume that his apartment is big enough to hold 7 people, but 5 small children all day, every day for 2 weeks. And he says that they find themselves on this regular loop where they get up, they eat, they clean, and they argue. And then a few hours later, they eat again, they clean again, and they argue again. And he says now they mix it up. Sometimes they get up and they argue and they eat and they clean. And sometimes they eat and they argue and they clean. And then sometimes they just argue. And so it was really funny, but you know, that's how our lives have become. They've changed so much, and we have to be able to find the humor in that and be able to coexist. If we're in the house with somebody else, if we're in the house with small children, we all have to be able to coexist. We have to be able to go about our lives and find the humor in it and see how we can adjust, because what humor does, it gives us an opportunity to get a different perspective. And when we get a different perspective, we recognize that God is in the midst of it all. When we can lighten up, our hearts open up, and we begin to see, yes, this is really annoying, and I know that God's in the midst of this too. I know that God's in the midst of this, and we're walking through this. We aren't blocked off. We aren't walled off in anger and walled off in grief. We are allowing that joy that is within us, that is inherent within us, to come forth. You know, there's that Ricky Byers song, "It All Fades into God," that in the midst of my pain is the seed of my strength. And I say that in the midst of my pain is the seed of my joy. And the seed of our joy is what humor brings forth. It brings forth that joy, and joy is God itself. Joy is a quality of God. It is God itself. And so when we can tap into that makes us laugh, we can tap into that we find humorous, that we can tap into that opens our hearts, then we allow that joy within us to reveal itself. we allow that joy within us to reveal itself. And when it reveals itself, that's God revealing itself. And that's how we find God, through the eyes of humor. We find God through the eyes of humor. I have to tell you this because I can't get it out of my mind right now. There's a cartoon on one of the Facebook groups that I belong to of a man standing in his kitchen with a dog on the floor beside him, and he's looking up, and there's a dog on top of the tall cabinets in the kitchen. And the dog is saying to the man, "We've been on 20 walks today. I'm not coming down. Let me alone. Leave me alone. We have walked 20 times today. Leave me alone." And every time I see that cartoon, I laugh out loud because I think about that poor dog, that poor man. They've been on 20 walks. How many people can relate to that? How many people can relate to the things that we do over and over and over again just to get some sense of normalcy, just some sense of control over what we're doing? And what we do is we begin to do those things that really have us sometimes feel that we're in control when we really aren't. But it makes us feel like we are. If I'm going to take the dog for a walk, and then I'm going to take the dog for another walk, and then I'm going to walk the dog again. And so we just keep doing that over and over again, and we just have to stop sometimes and laugh at that. The same way if you don't have dogs, if you don't have animals, if you're doing obsessive cleaning or obsessive eating or obsessive whatever it is that you're doing, just allow yourselves to be with that, see that, and laugh at that. And that's the way you can change that. That's the way you can change that, just by finding the humor in whatever it is you do. And so let's take a breath together. And so as we go through this time of just not knowing, that time of being in the not know, which is one of the scariest places to be, learning how to live in that not know place, learning how to be in that not know place, learning how to be in that place where we know, even though I don't know what's going to happen next, I don't know how this is going to turn out, I know that God knows. There's that within me that does know. And I'm just attaching myself and aligning myself to that one that does know, and allowing myself to be guided, allowing myself to be directed, allowing myself to be guarded, allowing myself to be protected by the all that is. And the all that is God, and that is what I am finding in everything. So in every situation, in every circumstance, in every event that goes on, we just have to continue to return to center. Return to the truth that we know. Return to the truth of knowing that God is right here, right now, right where I am. And even in this moment, I'm going to open my heart, I'm going to open my mind, I'm going to open my entire beingness to God, and I'm going to allow joy to come forth. I'm going to allow it to come forth as humor, as something to laugh at. So I invite you to find something to laugh about every day, several times a day, not just once. Find something to laugh about every day. In order to do that, oftentimes you have to turn the TV off, or turn the news off, or turn to a different channel, or whatever the case may be. But find something to laugh about every day. Every day. And you may ask yourself, just in sitting around, if you're by yourself, or if you're with somebody else, ask the question, what is the funniest thing that has happened today? What is the funniest thing that's happened today? And then share that with somebody else. Or share it, just write it out for yourself if that's what you need to do. What's the funniest thing that's happened today? If you do a lot of Facebook posts, you might want to ask that question. What's the funniest thing that's happened today? What's the funniest thing that's happened this week? That makes us thinking. That gets us to thinking some. What's the funniest thing that's happened this week? What's the funniest thing that's happened in my life? What's the funniest thing that's happened that's ever happened in my life? That's something that really makes us have to dig deep. It makes us have to remember, because sometimes things can be so heavy for us. Sometimes things can disturb us so much that we have to dig deep to find something that is humorous to us, that finds something that lightens us up. And so asking the question, what's the funniest thing that ever happened in my life? You got to stop and think about it. And you got to think about other people. You got to think about other situations. And you know what happens? When you start doing that, it takes your mind off the present moment. It takes your mind off the situation that you're in now. And so I'm inviting you to just start to think about, what's the funniest thing that ever happened in my life? And then when you start to do that, allow yourself to laugh. You know, laugh is an innate gift, a gift that we were given since before we came into this plane. Babies laugh. Babies laugh. They come in laughing. They don't even know what laughter is, but they come in laughing. Because you know what? When they come in, they are closer to God than we can be sometimes, because they just got here, and they haven't been caught up in the density of this plane that we live on, and so they laugh. They laugh, and then it makes people around them laugh. Have you ever noticed? Laughter, like fear, is contagious. Wouldn't you rather be caught up in the contagion of laughter than in the contagion of fear? And so I invite you to laugh. Find something to laugh about, and know that that's your gift from God. That's your innate ability to laugh, to find more and more to laugh about. I was reading a book about a woman who had worked with Mother Teresa in India, and she worked with a little girl who was blind and deaf, but the child loved to laugh, and would laugh so much that people all around her would laugh. And what she loved to do was, when she would laugh so much, someone would pick her up, because they would be laughing also. And when the adult would pick her up and laughing, the child would put her head on the chest of the person who picked her up so that she could feel the vibration of the laughter coming from the other person. She couldn't see it and she couldn't hear it, but she could feel that vibration of laughter. She could feel that vibration of joy. She could feel that vibration of God and that connection with that other person. And so that's what I'm talking about for us, feeling that vibration of laughter, feeling that vibration of joy, knowing that joy is always with us, because it is a quality of God and is always seeking expression and giving expression through our humor. And that's what we have to do, just recognize that we are just going to lighten up, and we're going to reclaim our gift of laughter. Reclaim our gift of laughter. Finding something to laugh about every day. In reclaiming our gift of laughter, one thing we want to keep in mind is that laughter has to be uplifting. The things that we laugh about have to be uplifting and enlightening. We don't want it to be at the expense of someone else. We don't want it to be our humor to be degrading. We don't want it to be divisive. We want it to be connecting. We want it to be from that place of oneness, from that place of joy, from that place of purity, from that place of love, and just for the sake of laughing and enjoying and changing our perspective. And so that's what I'm inviting you to do today. Just look at the things that bring you joy. Look at the things that bring you joy. Look at the ways in which you can find things to laugh about, find things to feel peace about, find things to feel joy about, find things to feel and experience the qualities of God. You know, one of those is making a list. If you're going to make a list of the things that make you laugh, count your blessings. And we make a list of the things that we feel are blessings in our lives, then it opens our hearts. It makes us smile, because you can't think of a blessing without smiling. It's hard to think of how blessed you are, or how a blessing came to you with a frown on your face. So I'm inviting you to think about the blessings, count your blessings, write them down. And as you write them down, you go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And what that does is it helps us to lighten up. It helps us to release some of the tension. It helps us to relax a bit. It helps us to just move into that place of knowing, you know what? Everything is okay. Everything is okay. We hear people saying that everything's going to be okay. We know that everything is okay. It just has to, the facts have to catch up with the truth. The facts have to catch up with the truth. And when we recognize that everything is okay, because everything is God. God is in the midst of everything, so everything has to be okay. But the facts out here have to catch up. And so despite what we may see as far as appearances go, despite what our experiences may be, we know that in the midst of it all, everything's okay. We know in the midst of it all, we are protected, we are guided, we are loved. We know that in the midst of it all, that one power, that one presence, that one mind, that one breath, that one activity that is God is right where we are. is in the midst of everything that's going on. And so when we can stay in that place of knowing that truth, when we can stay in that place of trusting, and daring to say everything is okay. Everything is okay. Look at all these blessings I just wrote down. Making a gratitude list. When we make a gratitude list, we cannot enumerate the things that we're grateful for without a smile. We can't enumerate the things that we're grateful for without an open heart. We can't enumerate the things that we're grateful for with a closed mind and a closed heart. We can't do that. And so when we can just take a breath and start to enumerate the things that we're grateful for, our hearts open, our minds open, our mood shifts. And oftentimes it'll be something humorous. Oftentimes it'll be something that makes us laugh, or allow it to be something that makes us laugh, that makes us chuckle, that makes us smile, that makes us relax. And to recognize that laughter is good for our health, because it releases the endorphins, as I said, in our brains. It boosts our immune system, which we really need to have happen right now. Anything that will boost our immune system, and laughter will do that for us. When we laugh, we also it also helps our blood pressure, because there's a freedom of the flow of blood, so that everything, the systems in our bodies are operating properly. All kinds of things happen when we can allow ourselves to return to that place of humor, return to that place of joy, return to that place of the open heart, return to that place of God. Of God. That's what everything amounts to, returning unto God. Returning unto God. And every time we return unto God, every time we return unto that place where we know the truth of our being is that we are made in the image and likeness and out of God itself, whenever we return to that place, all things are made new. All things are made new in each and every moment of each and every day. All things are made new when we return unto God, when we return unto the truth that we know, when we return unto that one that is the one, that is the source of our being. When we return unto that and knowing that we are made in this image and likeness, we dare to act like we know it. And we dare to take a deep breath, and we dare to relax, and we dare to say, everything is okay. Everything is okay. Everything is okay as I walk through this time. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I know that thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. This is what we know to be the truth. This is what we know to be the truth. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I know that thou art with me. I know that thou art with me. I know that thou art with me. This is the truth that I know. This is not something that somebody told me. This is the truth that I know. This is the truth that you know. And I'm inviting you to open up and stand in that truth that you know. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I know that thou art with me. Because thou art always with me. Because thou art that within which I live and move and have my being. And I know that thou lives and moves and has its being in me. And so we just stand in this truth that we know. That God is all there is, and God is everywhere present. God is always on the field, and that means that everything is okay. Let's take a breath together as we smile. Allow ourselves to smile. Allow ourselves to feel the freedom of a smile. Allow ourselves to relax. Allow ourselves to release. Allow ourselves to open up. Allow ourselves to lighten up. Allow ourselves to not take anything so seriously that we can't remember that we can find God in this moment right here and right now. And so let's take a breath as we find God and allow God to reveal itself in and through and as us in this moment right here and right now, whatever might be before us. We know that God's in the midst of it right here and right now. And so we breathe into this moment as I just recognize that there's only one power, one presence, one mind, one life, one breath. God. God, God. God, God. By whatever name you call it, it is the source of our being. You may not call it anything, but we know that it is the source. It is in the midst of everything that goes on in our lives as our lives. And so just knowing this truth, I know that this one is my very life. I know this one is that within which I live and move and have my being. I know this one lives in me. This one animates me. This one breathes me. This one is me. And so I say thank you, God, as I know the truth for each of us, as I speak the word for each of us this day. Just knowing that all is well. All is well. As we walk through this time of transition, as we walk through this time of change, as we walk through this time of the unknown, I know that we don't walk alone. I know that we are guided, we are directed, we are guarded, we're protected. I know that all needs are being met for each and every one of us in each and every moment. Even when we are in a place of not knowing where the next whatever is coming from, there's that within us that knows and that is always providing for each of us. And we open our hearts and we open our minds to receive. We just say yes to it. Say yes to that one. Say yes to provision. Say yes to supply. Say yes to God. We lighten up. We laugh, we smile, we allow joy to reveal itself. Even in the midst of pain, we allow joy to reveal itself. And we walk through this time doing what is before us to do, knowing that there's that presence that goes before us always, making straight our way in all ways. We lean on this presence. We lean on this power. We lean on this knower. And we trust. We trust God more than we trust anything and anyone. And know indeed that all indeed is well. All is well. This word goes out to anyone who's affected by the COVID-19 virus and just knowing that God is in the midst of everything. All of this God is in the midst of. And that healing is happening on every level. And we may not know what healing looks like, but it's happening on every level. And we trust and we allow it to unfold, knowing that it unfolds divinely and perfectly. In the circle of prayer that I've opened here, I pause momentarily so that you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may speak their names and you may speak them silently or loud, but you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names are spoken here this day, I know that God is in the midst of everything going on with them. For God is their very life. This prayer goes out to anyone on this planet needing a prayer this day, knowing that God is all that there is. And God is in the midst. And just knowing that God is all we ever need to know. Thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, Infinite Presence. Thank you, Divine Mother. I just allow it to be now. And so it is.